All right, we are ready to move on to the next step in our lesson. So let's start by talking about the materials and items you're going to want to have on hand. So of course, the first thing you're going to want to have on hand is that chart that we finished the other day. You'll recall that we drew the different features together, and I also helped you to mix all of the colors you see in the background. And then I left the features blank and I said to you, now you go ahead and paint in the features the way you want them to look. So if your features are painted in, let's say this lip is yellow and this is blue, that's fine. Because remember, I asked you to decide which of these colors you wanted to use to paint in the features. So maybe your eye here is green instead of blue, and that's fine. The other materials you're going to need are some scissors, maybe a pencil sharpener, it's always good to have on hand. An eraser is always nice. A Sharpie, definitely the Sharpie and ruler, and absolutely a pencil. And super important for this project, watercolor paper. So we're going to be using the watercolor paper specifically out of your journal for this assignment. If you don't have watercolor paper and you don't have a journal, or you've run out of room in your journal, we can adapt the lesson, but you're going to need to talk to me about how to do that. Because we are specifically looking at the dimensions of this paper. I can put the dimensions of this in the video for you, so that if you're working with the watercolor pad that maybe is bigger, you can draw out the dimensions so you know exactly how large to work. If you don't have watercolor paper, I do not want you to use the thin white paper that you would get a worksheet on. That's really not going to work super well for this project. One thing you could do is you could get a cereal box and use the brown side of the cereal box for your project, but you wouldn't want to get cardboard that's so thick that you can't cut through it. So like an Amazon box probably wouldn't work very well for you. But heavy paper, so we're looking for something that's about the same weight or thickness of this paper. So this is pretty sturdy. If you can find cardstock in your house, that's just the heavy paper that people sometimes have at home, you could use that. But look for your thickest paper if you don't happen to have your visual journal at home. Okay, so why do we need this thick paper? Well, if you paid attention till the very end of the last video, I told you that we would be making a sculpture out of, or using, the facial features that we drew together. So I'm just going to turn this really quickly for you so you can kind of get an idea of what this is going to look like. This one is not finished. I haven't added color to it. So I still need to paint it, but it gives you an idea of kind of where we're going with this project, okay? So what we're actually going to be doing today is we are going to be drawing part of this sculpture. So this sculpture is kind of cool because it's made with just 3 pieces, and we're going to be working on one of the pieces today. So I'm going to actually pull this apart. So this is one of the pieces we'll be making. There are some variations, but that's one of the pieces. And the next thing I'll do is take these 2 pieces apart. So you'll see these just slide together. We're going to be working on drawing the profile. So profile just means when somebody is turned to the side. So you can see this is about the size of my hand. So if you're working larger than that, your sculpture may flop over if it gets too big or the paper's not strong enough. So it's really important that if you have questions or you have to make changes because you don't have the right materials at home, to talk to me so I can give you advice on what will work for you. Okay, so the next thing I want you to do in your visual journal is just take a clean sheet of white paper, make sure there isn't anything on the back because we need both sides to be clean, and you're just going to go ahead and cut along very neatly right along this edge here along the wires, okay? So we'll just go ahead and cut that out. And I do want you to take your time and be careful. I want you to get a fairly clean cut. Okay, so we can put the scissors aside for now. We're also going to move our chart to the side and our Sharpie and those items that we're not using at this very moment. So we're going to go ahead and move our paper aside, and I should say our visual journal aside, and keep the paper in front of us. Okay, so this is going to be our starting point. Now, you are going to be permitted to make variations to this, and in fact, I encourage you to do that. We're going to start with a basic contour. So that just means the general outside edge of the shape. And then I'll show you how you can begin to make variations. So maybe I'll make one that looks a little bit different, but this gives you an idea of what we're drawing out on our paper. So the first thing you're going to do is you're gonna measure your paper, and it should be almost 5 inches. We're gonna go ahead and use 5 inches, a 5-inch measurement. It's a little bit bigger than that, but we're gonna stick with 5 inches. And we're gonna mark 2.5 inches because we're dividing the paper in half, okay? So we're looking for 2.5 on the ruler at the top and 2.5 on the ruler at the bottom. Okay, we're going to connect those with a line. Don't do it super dark, okay? And then we're gonna turn the paper horizontally. And remember, if I am working too fast for you, all you have to do is pause the video, stop it, rewind it, rewatch, and then go ahead and do what you need to do, okay? So remember, that's one of the really nice things about these videos is you can stop them at any point and work on something and then hit play when you're ready to move on. Okay, so the next thing I did, or I'm going to do, is I'm gonna mark halfway on this side of my paper, and this measures 8 inches. So we're gonna go ahead and mark 4 at the top. We're gonna bring our ruler down to the bottom, and we're gonna measure 4 inches at the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to, once again, connect those. All right, so now I want to turn my paper this direction. So portrait orientation, okay? And I'm gonna leave this here so that you can kind of see where we're headed as I'm drawing things out. Okay, so the first thing I want you to understand is that this neck portion is going to fill this rectangle here that's been created by those 2 lines. So if you think of this as rectangle 1, rectangle 2, rectangle 3, and rectangle 4, okay? So basically, in rectangle 3, from the bottom up, we're gonna be filling that with the neck, okay? So let's go ahead and get started, and this might not look exactly like this one, and that's fine. So the next thing I did is I drew the contour line of the nose. So when we looked at a lot of Picasso's portraits, they have a very sharp angular nose like we saw in the chart. So that's why we saw this for the nose a lot. In this one, I'm going to have it going this direction. So we're going to start by drawing the nose, and I'm gonna go almost to the edge. So I'm gonna do this to kind of help myself so that I can show you exactly about how far everything was. So this is the cutout one just sitting on top of another piece of paper that I had been sketching ideas out on. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go in just a smidge from the edge, just a tiny bit. And we're gonna go up. You're gonna start drawing lightly. So when I start drawing, I usually draw very lightly. That's so light you can't see it right now because apparently the lights are very bright in this room. So I'll do it a little bit darker for you, but normally I would start sketching that very, very lightly. So not quite all the way at the end. And I'm gonna go about, oh boy, we really need a shadow here. Let's see if I can improve this. Let me pause this and see if I can get something to cast a shadow there for us. Okay, so my workaround here is I'm just gonna be drawing a little bit darker, even than I did just a second ago. I'm not having a lot of success creating a shadow or getting the lights overhead to dim because I don't have a dimmer on my lights, so that's not gonna happen. So I'm just gonna draw this a little bit more darkly than I normally would. Okay, so I drew, again, a diagonal line that started just a little bit in from there, so about 1/4 of an inch, maybe even less. And then again, just a sharp diagonal line, and I went about 3/4 of the way, so to about right here. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do, and again, I'm gonna draw this darker than I normally would, is I'm actually just going to draw a straight line. You can use a ruler, whatever. You can freehand it. You can use a straight edge. And I'm just going to draw a line straight across, and it's going to go to about halfway here. Okay, so I'm estimating that this is about halfway, and that's halfway. So if we took box or rectangle number 2 and we divided it in half, right? Let's say we divided this in half. My line is going to go about to there. Okay. All right, you can see it. Woohoo! Success! From here, what I'm going to do is I am going to curve the line just gently until it gets to the, until it's almost straight. Okay. From here, I'm gonna come down and I'm gonna be drawing in the hair. Now, you can make adjustments to the hair, but I'm gonna just show you how I did this one. And again, we're drawing the outside edge first. So I came down to about halfway. So if we divided this rectangular box in half, like right here, I'm gonna come down to about there. And I'm going to curve the hair on the ends. And then I'm just going to do another curve this way. Okay. For the next one, so you can think of another line coming from here. I'm gonna bring it up and out. And it's not gonna go the whole way to the edge this time. And then I'm gonna bring it down. And then we can imagine that there would be another line for the hair coming here. And we're gonna bring this here and over, okay? And this is actually, I left this connected to the paper when I cut it out. Okay, so we have this edge here drawn out. We already know that this is gonna be the neck. Okay, so this line's just gonna stay there. So that means we just have to finish drawing what we see in rectangle number 4. So what I'm going to do is this comes about halfway, maybe a little bit above halfway for the chin. So I'm just gonna sketch that. This is about halfway, move it just a little bit higher than halfway. So just a little bit higher. And this is an approximation. So if yours isn't exactly in the same spot as mine, that's okay. All right, from here, I'm gonna move on to this line that we see right here. So I am gonna go in about an inch here. And again, these are approximations. And I'm gonna do another sharp diagonal line. So you can think about it, if this were connected, you'd have a nice triangle there. Now we're not going to connect it, but sometimes that's something that artists do when they're figuring out how to draw something, is they look at what's called negative space and they use that to guide their drawings. Okay, so we have that in there. And then you would be putting in the mouth. So let's just make a generic curve here. We can always go back and then change the mouth later. Okay, so just 2 curves for the lips. And I'm not gonna draw the lips the whole way in right now. And then we're gonna bring up the line down. The chin is gonna come out a little bit. and it's going to slant back up. So I did curve this. I'm going to bring this out a little bit further. This is why I usually draw very lightly so that I can make adjustments if I don't like something. Okay, so this is the general contour of the face, okay? Now, it looks a little bit funny right now, right? Looks a little bit funny here too, but that's okay because we're working in a Cubist style. And again, you can make adjustments to this and change it. So the next step that we would do, we would decide on what nose do we want to put in there. Do you want to make your own nose? In a Cubist style, of course. So thinking about geometric shapes and looking at Picasso's work and seeing, well, how did he draw the noses? Is there something I want to do? So I'm gonna go ahead and do this one a little bit differently just so that you can see a variation on it. So in this one, obviously I did the style with the 2 triangles. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other variation where we have, so we'll do this one, okay? So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and sketch that in on the nose. So what I'm telling you is it is perfectly fine and even encouraged for you to come up with your own design. Now, if you need to use mine because you're not feeling very confident, you can, but if you're shooting to earn a higher grade, you're gonna wanna come up with your own and come up with some variations. So I'm gonna just sketch this out. So that's like a half a heart. And again, if you're coming up with your own, you can stop the video here and begin laying everything else out on your own, okay? If you need to work along with me, you can go ahead and stay on the video and we'll work through this one and we'll talk about some more variations. So if you're not feeling super confident, we can work together. Okay. So I've sketched in the nose. So the next thing I'm gonna think about is my eye. So obviously I have this eye here. I can stick with that eye. I can put in a new one. I could come up with a different variation. Let's see if I can come up with a new variation here. So I'm going to go ahead and say that the eye is gonna start here. And I'm gonna start with a circle. We saw that happen a lot in the variations we worked on in the chart, and another circle on the inside. So fairly similar right now. Okay, so for this one, let's see how we can change it a little bit. So I'm gonna bring this out and I'm gonna change the angle of the eyelid here. So I'm gonna bring it down this time. Okay. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is I'll do this here. Let's see. Maybe I can even just do a line straight across. So let's see what that would look like. Let's do a line straight across there. And do that. Let's see if you can see this. Okay. So, simple changes to create a new variation, okay? And then let's see what else I could add to this to make it a little more interesting. We'll do a line here, and maybe I will add an eyebrow. So a little more similar to what we see in this one here. Not exactly the same, but working off of that idea. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add in some eyelashes. Okay, Now, the next thing I would need to do is go ahead and do the mouth. So again, if you're making some variations on this, you can go ahead and change it. So I'm going to sketch out the mouth here. Let's see, which one do I want to do? This one looks more concerned. This one's looking a bit happier. So we'll do that one that's almost like if you turn a heart on its side. So the one I'm looking at for this drawing is right here. Okay, now I'm gonna make some adjustments to the rest of this. So you can keep the same hairstyle or you can change it. One thing I did is I looked at a lot of his paintings as I was coming up with this and thought about the different shapes of the hair that I was seeing. I'm gonna go ahead and curve this time. Okay, and I'm gonna take and curve this line here for this. You can see how we come up with these different variations. So then what I would do is just go ahead and erase that sharp point. Now, in the first one, I cut out some notches like I saw in some of his sculptures and paintings. So I'm going to go ahead and let's see, I think I'll keep it fairly similar. I'm just gonna change this line by curving it and curving this a bit more here. Okay, and then I want to put an ear in. So I have this ear happening here. Maybe I'll do a different ear in this one. And also just a trick, especially with like the ears, you can flip them this way so you can see how to draw them. If you're putting like this ear on here, you can flip that. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw in the ear, and we'll do kind of the one that reminds me of a Shrek ear. So I'm gonna do an oval. And the nice thing about doing these drawings is you don't have to worry about it looking realistic, right? Because this is an abstract art form. So we're not trying to draw this in a realistic manner. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and draw her funny hairline in. Okay, and then I'll add this in the back too. I drew an angle here, almost like she was wearing a shirt. And I'm going to come off of here. And let's see, I think this line, I'm going to bring this one down. So I'm just drawing some lines in for the hair. Okay. And then if you want to make any changes or additions, you can go ahead and put those in now. So I like having a few more lines in here. I think I'm going to add a circle in the chin of this one. And I'm going to clean up some of these lines a little bit. And I do like these circles in the cheeks. Okay, so once you have this drawn out and you're happy with it, so if you want to go in and make changes, you absolutely could. So like if I want to kind of make this more like that, I can. So there's so many ways to take the original contour and the original idea and really switch it around to create something a little bit different. So once you have that drawn on there, the next step is to take your Sharpie, and what you're going to do is you're going to outline everything in Sharpie. And I may even make some changes with my Sharpie as I'm drawing. That's really up to you. I would suggest you do it in pencil just because I've been doing this a long time. Sometimes I just make them when I'm working with my Sharpie. Okay, so I finally found the Sharpie I want to use. Okay, I'm going to start with the eye because I'm pretty happy with this one. And I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video here, and then we'll talk about what to do once you have this done. Okay, so now that this is done, what I'm going to do is I am going to erase all of the pencil lines except for this one right here, because I'm going to use this later on when I make the cut in my work, okay? So we're going to leave that one there for now because you can see when this one lines up here, that is right on that guideline. Okay, don't do any cutting yet though. Not yet, hold on one second. All right, so then I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna erase all those pencil lines. Okay, presentation matters in artwork. We wanna pay attention to our details, think about what we're doing. Remember not to erase this line here. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and take this and we are going to be taping it to a window, a bright sunny window. Or if you can do it without doing that and you can see the outline on the back, you can trace right over it. But my guess is you probably can't. So we're gonna be taking this and taping it to a window. So we're gonna pause here for a second so that I can get this taped to a window and show you the next step, okay? Okay, so I've got this taped to a bright sunny window, and you can tell it's not even a transparent window. There's like some frosting there and it still works. So just use some masking tape on there. And then the next thing I would do is I would take my Sharpie and just neatly, or actually you can do it in pencil first if you're worried. Going to very neatly trace over, sorry, I'm trying to video this and trace at the same time. Trace over all of the lines that you see. Okay, so you're gonna go through with your Sharpie and trace over all of that Sharpie you see. Once that's done, we're gonna come back and see the next step. Okay, so I have finished tracing my original drawing on the other side, and you've seen how to do that. So now the next step is to come in with your scissors, and you are going to very neatly begin cutting out your drawing. So remember that you do want to keep, at least, I'd say about 2 inches here in order to be able to have it work in the stand. I definitely wouldn't go any smaller than that. So remember to keep at least 2 inches on the bottom here. I kept about 2.5 there, okay? So go ahead and finish cutting this out. And then when you've finished cutting it out, you're going to keep it in a very safe spot, because in the next video, we're going to be working on drawing the other face, which will be looking at us facing forward. Okay, so instead of it from the side, it's looking at us directly. Okay, so go ahead and finish cutting this the whole way out. I'll do it here just so you can see it. I'll cut it out off camera or on video and speed it up, one or the other, I'm not sure, so you can see what it looks like, okay? Okay, this is all cut out. Oops, I forgot one little spot. Pay attention, you may too. And notice that I didn't actually cut on that center line yet. So we will be saving that for later on, so don't cut on that yet, okay? I'm not gonna cut that yet. All right, and now it's cut out, okay? You may want to save these scraps just to test colors on. So it's always a nice idea to have some watercolor paper around to test your colors on for later on in the project. But there you go. We have the first part of our sculpture done. And in the next video, like I said, we'll move on to the second step, which is making our face that's looking forward. Okay? Alrighty, see you in the next video.